All right, we are here with Breakthrough 2020, and I'm with my friend Marek Rudak.
How's it going, guys?
He is the love. He's a what's the technical term?
So technical term is I'm a coach who helps men grow from divorce and start the next chapter.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I'm so excited about that because I just believe your mission is just number one. It's God called, so meaning you were literally woven and designed to do what you're doing today. And so and I think
A lot of scars.
yeah, oh man, yeah, and so that's awesome, and but I'm glad to have you today. Again, Breakthrough 2020 is solely and simply designed as a platform for my friends. No fancy. I was laughing. Marek and I shot an episode for his thing before this, and he used the term, "Well, it's no big deal. I'll edit it if I need to." I'm like, no one's getting nothing edited on mine because I am horrible at editing. But really, I'm not trying to do this to get a million views as we were praying before this
There's not
episode.
gonna be a break for makeup.
Exactly. But we were literally saying, the goal here is if it reaches one person, right? And I don't think that has anything to do with what Eric and I are going to say today. So I truly believe that's already been done. We yeah, exactly. So we
Yeah,
put
that's my
ourselves.
experience.
I love it. So if we just put it out there, man, he's going to handle the rest. What we
Mhm.
do is our job. What he does is his. So we're excited about that. But today's is very simply put. Marek, having spent time with him, is just does a masterful job at helping people uh, deal with destruction, right? Dealing with
Yeah.
situations that just completely flip their worlds upside down. And so while he specializes in divorce, we realize that right now there's people who are potentially at risk of divorce. They've maybe lost a relationship in the last few months. Perhaps they've lost a loved one because of their health. Perhaps they've lost a job. Perhaps their whole career path has been destroyed, their business, their restaurant, whatever. So um, if you are watching this, there's a good chance you've seen destruction in the last 90 days, and it's been unfortunate, but it's also not going to heal overnight. We're not going to just turn the lights back on and everything gets back to normal. So it's going to be a rough road. So I invited Marek here really just to take a few moments. This isn't really going to be a huge dialogue because I'm really going to hand it to him. We
Mhm.
really have one thing that we're centered on today, which is how do you move from, okay, I'm knocked down, I'm done, I'm
Mhm.
toast. What do I do now?
Mhm.
How do I progress with that? So, Marek, I want to hand that over to you because I know there's a few steps that you usually work through in helping people
Yeah.
work through that process. So, I'm just going to throw the ball to your court, and maybe you can help give us some clarity there.
Yeah, sure. So my area of specialty is helping men grow from divorce and start the next chapter. And if you really think about it, losing your job, having your business fail, losing some, having a stock that loses a lot of value, losing value in your 401k. In a way, that's a form of divorce because that's something you put a lot of emotional energy into, and you had really high hopes for, and you thought you'd be there, it's going to be there for a long time, and then it stops, and it's over, and and we are forced to pick up the pieces when that happens, and it's very difficult. For example, with me, what was very difficult in my journey when it comes to divorce is the fact that I felt like I followed all the right steps. I did all the right things. Went to the right school, graduated top 10% of my West Point class. I went to war, Iraq and Afghanistan. At the time when I was going to divorce, I had a great job at Exxon, making a ton of money, but I could not save my marriage. And it just killed me because I felt like, knowing what I knew at the time, I was literally doing all the things that I knew that could have been done. To me, I was just putting my best foot forward, and it failed. And I just felt really bad because I thought that, hey, if I put my best foot forward and I don't understand why my marriage failed, who's to say that the same thing is not going to happen in my next marriage? You know, uh, and 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 I took that baggage to all of my subsequent relationships. So after my divorce, I did quite a bit of dating, 3 to 4 years of dating, and every time either I broke up with the person broke up with me, it's like this wound just open right out, that just got ripped out again. And I just felt that same pain again because it felt like there was something wrong with me. And especially it's difficult for for Christian men, for us Christian men, because it takes a whole nother level of complexity, because all of a sudden it makes you feel like, hey, am I cursed? Did I not go to church enough? Am I not praying enough? But what I found through my journey is that as painful as divorce is, it could also be the best teacher. Because when you have somebody like myself walk by you, and that's really why I do it, is I help men figure out exactly what happened, how their actions affected the relationship, because we know that there's no such thing as somebody's perfect fault. There's the fault is always somewhere in between. But it's not so much about blaming the person, but it's really understanding how I affected that relationship. Because once you understand that, it gives you a lot of power, because you realize, oh, okay, so that's what I've been doing wrong. And that's how I can do better. And so when I work with my clients, I help them make those changes to position themselves for the best chapters of their lives. And you mentioned to me that the major steps that I use with my clients, which I think are just as applicable to other areas of your life, whether you lost your job or business or whatever it might be, that was tremendous value of you. The first step I do with my clients, I first make sure that they take great care of themselves. Because, and for the purposes of this, I'll just use a divorce, but I'm sure that whatever difficult situation you're going through, you'll see parallels. But when you go through a divorce, it's very easy to fall into bad habits. Things like anywhere from small things, seemingly small things like eating junk food, maybe not working out enough, to more serious things like drinking, partying, pornography. All these things, they make your stress level even higher, and they put you in that downward spiral. So the more stress you feel, the more you do these bad things, and the worse you feel, and it's just a vicious cycle. So one of the first things I do with my clients, I help them reduce their stress, help them to get rid of these bad habits, so that way they have the mental capacity and energy to make the change, to make the improvements they need to make, to set themselves up for a better future. And again, that applies to somebody who lost their business or maybe lost a relationship, or maybe some kind of a deal. Is that there's always something that's going to be very tempting for us to do to numb that pain out. But the more you do it, it's like you prolong that pain. And then the second step is I help my clients make peace with their past. And again, going by the example of divorced men, it's very easy for us to have resentful thoughts. Thoughts like, hey, maybe I should have done this, maybe I should have done that. Why was my ex such a bad person? Or maybe does God even love me? All these thoughts, they hold us back, because they take us back to the past. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to work on the future when you just keep going back to the past and rethinking. Like every time you try to start something new, you go back to your past, and it just drags you down. It's like a weight you gotta keep dragging, and it's like you can't really go as far if you keep just dragging that dead weight with you. And so I help my clients make peace with that, so that they can make progress. And then the third thing I do with my clients is I help them enjoy being single. And I'm sure you can relate to it, because I know you went through a divorce. When you become single, it's very difficult, because much of your identity was wrapped around your wife, and now all of a sudden you're on your own. And what I found it makes it very difficult is that typically, especially for men, we go through a checklist. We, for example, we do in such subject very well, so we major in something like that in college, and based on our major, we get a job. For example, let's say we're good at math, we major in accounting, and we get an accounting job. And all of that is really driven by what other people think is valuable. And that's not necessarily wrong, but the problem is that, if you do that and then you marry and you bond yourself with that person before you really understand who you are, then when you rip that bond open, then it's really hard for you to figure out who you are as a single person. So that's very terrifying for a lot of men to be divorced, and it causes them to be lonely. And so I help my clients see being single as a great opportunity to reinvent yourself and to build your new life based on an identity you, quite frankly, never really had the time to dig into earlier. And then the fourth step is I help my clients start the next chapter. And so once you've done all those previous three steps, like make peace with your past, you take care of yourself, and you understand who you are as a single person, it's much easier to create that vision of the future. Because if you don't know where you're going, how will you know when you get there? Any path will take you there. And so a lot of times what happens with divorced men, they don't really take the time to think about what they want to accomplish. And so that prevents them to take concrete steps of action to to step into what God called them to be in the first place. And so that next chapter could be anywhere from starting a new career, maybe it could be starting a new ministry, or intentional dating. But whatever it is, I help my clients figure out exactly what it is and help them take those first steps towards that next chapter so they can do it on their own. But because my goal is not to be them, till eternity. My goal is to get them up to speed and get them to make those changes themselves as soon as possible so they can take off and then keep growing on their own.
Yeah, so those were four great things, and that really is the nugget or the core of this conversation, because you can take that model that you just described and pick it up and just replace divorce with anything, right? And so even if you think about being single, you talk, that's the only one that doesn't fit necessarily, but when you really do think about it, though, if I've lost let's say the career that I went to school for and went through, there's for a lot of people, I know me, I had my entire identity for 16 years of my life was my career at 24 Hour Fitness, and so that I spent my entire adult livelihood from 20 to 36 at one company. So that was my identity. It is even today, right? People still talk to me about fitness stuff or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I've got a fat roll, bro. Like I got quarantine belly for days, bro. Like don't, I'm not your fitness guy anymore. So I laugh about that because that was once my identity. So I love those call outs. So let's frame it up one more time for the group. So the first thing is if again, whether they're working with you or not, like, let's just say that the first thing you got to do is you got to do what? You've got to
take great care of yourself.
Great care of yourself. So that's the first thing. So love your temple, love your body. Relating that to the current scenario, everybody's talking about the quarantine weight or whatever else, right? So I know myself included, we developed that habit, right? It started out as maybe one drink at the end of the day. Now it's two, maybe now it's three. And maybe I'm not alcoholic, but let's be clear. It probably is clouding your mind. You're waking up with a little bit of a headache because you're dehydrated. Maybe you decided it's one more night to eat pizza. And those carbs and that cheese and that heavy weight is causing you to sleep less, right? If you really need to think about the next plan, right, you got to take care of the temple first, because that's going to be where everything starts. Okay, the second part was
because, for example, even with me, I love physical fitness. I've been working out, since I was a teenager because I was in the Army. But even now, with the 24-hour fitness closed, that's where I like to work out. It's very tempting for me to say, it's the gym is closed, so I can ease up on the working out. And guess what? And I did, and I started gaining weight. And it's just, and it's not about looking good. It's like even simple things like gaining weight. Like what I've noticed, I don't know about you, Jason, like when I gain weight, it's like my thinking slows down, and then
100%.
And then when your thinking slows down, it's like, praise the Lord, I'm delivered from pornography. But when your thinking slows down, then all of a sudden, all these clips on YouTube that you shouldn't be watching become very tempting. And it's just like, it just takes life on its own. And before you know it, you might be doing things that you thought you'd never be doing.
Oh, easy. And it'll just consume you. And the next thing you know, you're, or back to what you just described, you lose your business and you got to figure out how you're going to get your head right and come up with the next plan. Well, how are you going to see the next plan? You can't even get to number 4, which is planning forward, if you can't think straight or you don't have a good cognitive mindset. So great point. Now the second one was
making peace with your past.
Okay, cool. So making peace with your past. So again, I think a great call. The third, which was not really losing your identity. So getting good being single, but single could be translated to getting good, understanding that your business, which was perhaps in this sector, maybe is not that, but that's okay. That's not you. Maybe it's okay to take a little time to revisit what you're doing. And then the fourth is, where do you go from here? Right? Okay. Cool. So with the rest of the group, for whoever's watching this, I would encourage that those, that you capture those 4 thoughts. And again, you could always reach out to Marek if it's not about divorce. I know his mind's open to have dialogue with any individual, but really encouraging and imploring other people to write those 4 steps down. Maybe do a checklist that says, okay, am I really taking care of my temple? 2, am I like over this, or have I identified why I'm having such a hard? I know for me, my hardest thing destruction that came with the marriage of divorce, and then also combined with the hardest window of time that I'd ever gone through was I did that and a career change. And then so my identity was all wrapped up in everything I had built. So
Yeah.
when that was gone,
Yeah.
it took me forever to try to figure that out and get over the past. But then I had to spend probably 2 years. We just talked about that on your show,
Yeah.
really coming to the realization that that's not who I am.
Yeah.
Jason Lee's not all that. Jason Lee
Yeah.
is a loving, caring dude who wants to go out and help people. So it doesn't matter what job I'm in. When I do that, I'll get the right job that matches that. So I love that, man. And
then
then
like
third,
one point, if I can make addition to it, is that,
please.
and I've been guilty of it too, and even now, even though I teach it, I'm guilty, is that, we tend to start with step number 4. We tend to want to start the next chapter.
Oh yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that if you're not taking good care of yourself, if you haven't made peace with your past, and if you're not enjoy being single, whatever that single might be, even let's say you got laid off from a job and you don't enjoy having the opportunity to explore a new career field, for example, then guess what? You cannot start the next chapter. I mean, you can start it, but it's probably gonna not end very well because you have all these 3 things that keep dragging you back in the past. And so even though you feel like you're doing something, more than likely you're gonna take some false steps. At the first sign of failure, you're gonna give up. And that's again because we tend to we try to like fast forward. We try to like make a change without actually changing ourselves. and that doesn't work. You have to change your insides before you can step into that next chapter.
That's awesome. And for those that are watching, it might not be that it's that traumatic of you've lost your job. Maybe if you're like me or even Marek, knowing that the playing field's changed, and having to understand that you're going to have to change the way that you approach business, with business owners maybe not being open or people not answering the phones like they were or running face-to-face appointments, or there's a laundry list of things that you could hang your hat on and say, if I dwell in the past, well, but this is what was working, or this is what worked before. You could spend a whole bunch of time on that. And then if you just go out into the future without kind of understanding that you have to adapt, you might spend a lot of burning energy not really getting to that. So I think that's a really good, I'm going to take that model just myself personally and try to say, okay, post COVID, I've still got a good job. My marriage is good. I've got these blessings in my life, but now there's a new world that I have to go tackle for the rest of 2020. So I'm going to look at those and say, well, what things am I hung up on? And then do I need to tackle and let behind me, get comfortable with adapting for going forward, and then, be ready to move forward. I love that, man. What's some great insight, man. You hit the nail on the head.
Because I didn't expect to talk about other areas, but it's, thanks to that conversation, it's like, oh, this actually applies to other stuff as well. So thank you, Jason.
No, it does. I mean, what you're doing works really well. The beauty of what you do is your gift, and your gift is that engineering mind, that ability to process and move something from point A to point B or point D. In your case, the 4 steps, and that's so God picked you up and said, I need you to work with these men to go through this process because marriage is important. And if they're in what we don't want is a vicious cycle of destructive marriage to destructive marriage to destructive marriage, or bad job to bad job to bad job. You'll spend your whole life doing that. So what better way than to take an Army Ranger of all people, right? Like one of the baddest people on the planet, make them phenomenal at love and great at understanding that, and then give them an engineering mind to help people move from destruction to the next chapter in their life. And so what a blessing. I think you shared some phenomenal insight today. I would encourage individuals, if you need a good person to help you process those things and where you're potentially at, reach out to Marek, just get connected with him. And if he can't help you, I'm sure similar to myself, he's happy to open the doors to anybody who can. And so for those that are watching, how could anybody reach you? How does somebody find and get connected to?
So probably the easiest thing is go to my website. It's Marek, that's my first name, Rudak, my last name, .com.
Nice.
That's my website, and my email address is Marek, which is my first name, at marekrudak.com, and hopefully you'll be able to post that into the comment section for the folks to be able to click on.
Yep, I will do that for you. Thank you. That was a gentle reminder from my good friend on how to make sure we do that. And then one other reminder too, for those that are watching, as you go to his website, you'll find more information. I've actually read his book, but he's also an author.
Oh yeah, let me show it.
Yeah, please.
Hopefully my shorts didn't show.
The love-driven man. I love it. So that I'm telling you right now, when I went through the book, I got some great nuggets from it. But I can tell you, having been through what that book is designed, I think, to help men break through. I don't want to say we're ever there. It's a nonstop development process. So I was very humbled to be able to witness and read that book and say, but there was a lot of stuff that I gathered from it that were good refreshers for me. And for those that are still trying to figure out how to break through, I don't care where you're at in your marriage. I don't care where you're at in your business. I don't care where you're at in life. If you haven't truly, and the beauty behind his book is the love that comes from that core relationship with our Savior is really at the center of everything it is that you do and everything that you speak and breathe into life. And so I would encourage anybody, I don't care where, if you're a woman, you need to read The Love-Driven Man.
Yeah, actually, there's actually been a good amount of women who have read that book.
Yeah, you absolutely need to. And then, then you go tell your husband, you say, hey, do this. No,
well, in fact, there was one woman that told me
that always works.
gave it to her last boyfriend, and the boyfriend read it and walked away, which was actually a good thing because it saved a lot of time because he was not willing to do the things that she expected him to do to be the right person. She was actually thankful for not wasting the time with him.
Hallelujah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The only thing in the investment world, we always say that the best investment sometimes that will help our clients make is the ones they didn't make. Yeah. So because we can kind of keep them out of hot water if they're doing things they don't understand or aren't right for them. So, so hey guys, I want to thank you, Marek. I want to thank you for joining me today. I'm humbled to have you as part of my network. This show is about bringing the valuable people that I've built in the last 20 years that are in my network. I don't never lay claim to know the richest, the most famous, the biggest influencers, but I will tell you the people that I'm bringing on here, I can vouch for when it comes to their integrity, their moral compass, their heart for service, and their desire to leave the world a better place. And Marek's one of those people, and so I thank you for that. And hopefully you guys will stay tuned in on some more of our episodes as I continue to bring out great people from my network, and let's just share it and perhaps pass this along to somebody who needs to hear the great information he gave today. Thanks, Mark.
God bless you guys. Thank you, Jason. And I hope you enjoyed this. God bless you.